Picture this. You go to bed with a stomach that's felt stuck for months. Cutting calories didn't work. Cardio didn't work. Then you wake up roughly 18 hours after your last bite. Nothing dramatic, just different. A little softer around the middle. A little more energy than usual. Do this every day, and that small difference compounds into something you can actually see in the mirror. Here's the thing. 18 hours isn't some random number someone picked for convenience. It sits at a real biological threshold where two very specific things happen inside your body at the exact same time. Things that don't happen at 12 hours, barely happen at 14, and are just barely starting at 16, the number everyone talks about. Today, we're breaking down those two things and why they zero in on visceral fat specifically. That's the dangerous fat wrapped around your organs. Not just fat in general. If you know the 16 to 8 method, this is the extended version. 18 hours pushes 2 hours past where most people stop. And those 2 extra hours? That's exactly where visceral fat stops being just one fuel source. It becomes the dominant one. Most fasting advice stops at 16 hours because it's convenient. Skip breakfast, eat lunch through dinner, done. But that convenience has a cost. Most people never even realize they're paying it. Stick around because by the end of this, you'll know exactly what time to stop eating tonight. No guesswork. No confusing math. Just one number to remember. So let's get into why. First threshold, glycogen depletion. Glycogen is your body's quick fuel, stored in your liver and muscles. For most people, that fuel runs out somewhere between 12 and 16 hours. Depends on your activity, depends on your last meal. Ate a big carb-heavy dinner? It might take longer. Trained hard that day? Faster. At 16 hours, you're just crossing into empty. Your body's just now realizing the easy fuel is gone. But at 18 hours, you've had 2 full hours running on zero glycogen. No cushion left. Fat oxidation isn't just starting anymore. It's the only thing running the show. Your body has fully committed. No going back to the easy tank. Second threshold, the insulin and growth hormone crossover. Insulin doesn't fall in a straight line while you fast. It hits a real plateau somewhere between 16 and 20 hours. Not a dip, a plateau. It just sits there, low, steady. And growth hormone, the stuff released in pulses during deep sleep, it hits way harder when insulin is already sitting at that low plateau, compared to when insulin is still on its way down. Here's why 18 hours is the sweet spot. For most people on a normal sleep schedule, that mark lands right when you wake up, which means your whole overnight sleep window overlaps with this plateau. The growth hormone firing during your deepest sleep, it's working inside the exact hormonal environment that lets it hit hardest, not fighting leftover insulin from a shorter fast. Now here's the part that explains everything. Why visceral fat specifically? Visceral fat is packed with cortisol receptors and growth hormone receptors. Way more than the fat under your skin, which means it reacts faster and harder to exactly the hormonal state sitting at hour 18. Low insulin, active growth hormone. Fat on your arms and legs feels this too, but slower, weaker. Visceral fat has a rich blood supply, dense receptor networks. It's first in line to respond. Think of it like 2 rooms in the same house. One room has a window facing the sun all day. The other barely gets light. Insulin dropping and growth hormone rising as the sun coming out. Visceral fat is the room with the window. It catches the light first. This is the actual mechanism, not a fat loss trick. A precisely timed hormonal window. And visceral fat happens to be built to answer it. That's also part of why belly fat feels so stubborn during the day. It's protected by high insulin most of the time. But at hour 18, that protection is gone. The door that was locked all day finally swings open, and it stays open until you eat again. Let's map this onto a real schedule, so you can see exactly where these hours land. Say your last meal is 2 p.m. You fast until 8 a.m. That's 18 hours. And it puts your entire sleep window right inside the deep fasting zone. Not near the edge of it. Dead center. Here's what's happening at each stage. Hour 12, around 2 a.m. Glycogen's nearly gone. Your body's leaning harder on fat, but there's still a little cushion left. You probably don't feel much different at this point. Most of this is happening while you're asleep anyway. Hour 14 to 16, roughly 4 to 6 a.m. This lines up with the tail end of your deep sleep cycles. Insulin's approaching its lowest point of the day. And growth hormone released earlier that night? Still working. Still pulling fat out of visceral tissue. This is the stretch where most 16-hour fasters are just waking up and reaching for breakfast. Hour 16 to 18, roughly 6 to 8 a.m. This is the final stretch. Almost no glycogen left. Fat oxidation is basically the only fuel source running, and visceral fat is being mobilized harder than at any other point in the fast. Not because something magical just happened, because three things finally stack together. Insulin, rock bottom. Growth hormone, still active. Glycogen, completely gone. Here's what most 16-hour fasters never get to feel. Stop at 16 and you're breaking your fast, right as the good part starts. You get a taste of depletion, but not the full 2 hours where growth hormone and low insulin work together at full strength. Push to 18, and you're asleep for basically the entire best part. You wake up having captured all of it, instead of cutting it short an hour before the peak. One important note here. 18 hours isn't automatically better than 16 for total weight loss. Calories still matter for your overall weight. That part never goes away, no matter what protocol you follow. A solid 16-hour fast with good eating still works. Plenty of people get great results there. But for visceral fat specifically, that extended window of low insulin and high growth hormone hits different because of how densely packed visceral fat is with the receptors that respond to it. That's the real value here. Not burns more calories. It's captures more of the exact window visceral fat is built to respond to. Research on extended fasting shows growth hormone can spike up to 5 times baseline. 5 times. The 18-hour window catches meaningfully more of that spike than 16 hours does, without needing the full commitment of a 24-hour fast and the recovery that comes with it. Think of 18 as the sweet spot, deep enough to fully hit that depleted, plateaued state, but still doable every single day. No extended recovery required. You wake up, you're fine, you do it again tomorrow. Compare that to the weekly 24-hour fast. That one pushes insulin and growth hormone even further. Triggers autophagy, cell cleanup that a daily fast doesn't reach. But it only happens once a week. Recovery demands too high for daily use. Your body needs a few days to bounce back from a full 24-hour push. An 18-hour fast? Totally sustainable day after day. No burnout, no crash, no dreading the next one. Which means that visceral fat window opens every single day, not once every 7. Daily repetition of a good window beats weekly repetition of an extreme one, almost every time. Think about it like compound interest. A small, consistent deposit every day outgrows one big deposit made once a week. That's why 18 hours earns its own spot. It's not just 16 hours, but longer. It's the number where daily consistency and biological depth actually meet. So how do you actually build this into a normal day? Simple. Shift your eating window earlier. Don't stay up late and push the fast into tomorrow afternoon. An early to mid-afternoon last meal beats skipping breakfast and eating late. Why? Because most of your fasting hours end up overlapping with sleep, which means the deep fat burning part happens while you're unconscious. 0 effort required. You're not lying awake fighting hunger through the hardest hours. You're just asleep. This is one of the most underrated advantages of eating earlier. It's not flashy. It's not a hack. It's just timing your kitchen instead of your workout. Say you finish eating by 2 p.m. Your 18-hour mark lands at 8 a.m., right when you'd wake up anyway. You experience almost none of the fast, consciously. Go to bed, Sleep through the good part, wake up done. Now compare that to eating until 9 p.m., trying to fast until 3 p.m. the next day. Same 18 hours, but now you're fasting through your whole morning, wide awake, fighting hunger instead of sleeping through it, watching the clock at 11 a.m. wondering when lunch is coming, stomach growling in a meeting, reaching for gum just to feel something. Timing matters as much as duration here. It's the difference between a fast that feels effortless and one that feels like a countdown. So, what breaks the fast and what doesn't? Plain water, always fine. Genuinely important, actually, since dehydration slows fat metabolism. Drink more than you think you need. Black coffee, fine. Caffeine barely touches insulin, might even help release fat. Plain tea, same story. Green tea especially if you want a small extra edge. None of these interrupt the hormonal state you've spent hours building. But any calories? Game over. Clock resets completely. A splash of milk in your coffee. A piece of fruit. A small handful of nuts. Even a stick of sugar-free gum can trigger a mild response in some people. All of it triggers insulin. Ends your low insulin plateau instantly. There's no such thing as an insignificant bite here. Not if your goal is actually hitting 18 hours. Not 17 and a half because you got hungry and grabbed a bite. When you do break the fast, how you break it matters too. Build your first meal around protein. Eggs, Greek yogurt, lean meat, cottage cheese. Protein raises insulin gently, which means the metabolic state you just spent 18 hours building doesn't slam shut the second you eat. A carb-heavy first meal? Insulin spikes hard, window closes fast. That bowl of cereal or bagel undoes a good chunk of what you just built. Protein first stretches the transition out. Think of it as easing the door shut instead of slamming it. Let's be honest about timelines here. This isn't a one-day transformation. Nobody wakes up on day 2 with a flat stomach. One 18-hour fast won't do that. Anyone promising that is selling you something. The real value is daily compounding. Every single time you hit this threshold, visceral fat gets another full exposure to the exact window it responds to most. And based on how visceral fat behaves, most people start noticing real changes. Waist measurement, how clothes fit, somewhere around week 3 or 4. Not because anything dramatic happens on any one day. Because visceral fat is genuinely responsive tissue. It answers to consistent signals over time, not to one heroic effort followed by giving up. So here's the whole thing in 2 sentences. At 18 hours, your glycogen's fully gone, your insulin is at its lowest point, and the growth hormone from your sleep is still telling visceral fat to release. That's the exact window most people miss, either by stopping at 16, right before it starts, or by never letting their fast reach into sleep at all. You don't need to white-knuckle through 18 waking hours of hunger. You just need to structure your eating so sleep does the heavy lifting. That's the whole strategy. No supplements, no gadgets, no tracking spreadsheets, no expensive program promising overnight miracles. Just eat a few hours earlier than you currently do, and let the biology run while you rest. Honestly, the hardest part isn't the fast itself. It's eating dinner earlier, before the late-night snacking habits kick in. Before the couch, the TV, the mindless bites at 9 p.m. Once that shift happens, the rest basically takes care of itself. Your body already knows what to do. It's been waiting for the right conditions. If this helped you understand why those extra 2 hours matter, hit that like button. And tell me in the comments, what time do you usually eat your last meal? What time would your 18-hour mark land if you started tonight? Do the math, drop it below. That one calculation might be the most useful thing you take from this video, because once you know that number, you're not guessing anymore. You know exactly when to close the kitchen tonight, and exactly when your body starts working for you instead of against you. That's the difference between hoping something works and knowing why it does.